From our studios in the heart of New York City, it's The Hirsh Show.
My guest this week is television executive and game show historian Bob Boden.
I'm Kyle Serra, and now here's our host, Kyle Hirshon.
Kyle Serra, as always, thank you very much for that introduction. Welcome, everybody, to The Hirsh Show. It's been a while since we've been on the air, but you know what? We're back and ready to go for the summertime. And my guest today has over 100 television series with his name on it, as well as specials for daytime, primetime, late night, children's programming. He's got credits with CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox, as well as Game Show Network, the Family Channel, and so many others. And now he's helping curate a brand new game show exhibit. And it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Bob Boden to The Hirsh Show.
Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me.
No, man, this is a lot of fun. Now, I want to talk about this museum, the Strong Museum of Play, which is located in Rochester, New York. Tell me about this new thing that you're curating with Howard Blumenthal.
Yeah, well, it all started a few months back when Howard mentioned to me that he has several boxes of memorabilia going back to the quiz show Scandal era, because Norm Blumenthal was one of the original producers of Concentration and was heavily involved in production and development in that era. So he's got all this stuff and doesn't know what to do with it and wants to find a happy home for it. So he is familiar with Rochester and the museum, and he contacted them, and he said, you do video games, you do toys, you do dolls, you do pinball machines. What about game shows? And they said, well, we'd love to be involved in game shows. We just don't have connections there. And he said, well, I got a guy. So he connected them with me. And, Howard has a great past in game shows as well, having created and produced Carmen Sandiego, and going back to the Concentration days and the beginnings of Nickelodeon and all the game shows they did. So he knows his stuff, but I'm kind of in the community. So he set them up with me, and we started a dialogue. They decided a couple months ago that this was worthy of an investment from them to announce this National Archives of Game Show History. And it was announced about 9 days ago, and the publicity and the response has just been an avalanche. I mean, we had no clue that there would be this much attention paid to this effort, but we're so thrilled because game shows have long been ignored and disrespected, and it is time that they get their due. And now there's going to be a real place, a real home for memorabilia and donations, and it's going to be. I can't wait to see it when it opens. It's going to be fantastic.
I mean, when I first read about this, I'm like, okay, I know there's going to be some amazing stuff. Now you've got a massive collection of game show memorabilia, as we can see behind you. That's just not even a chunk of it. I know you've got a lot of stuff. Now, what exactly can we expect to see at this museum?
Well, in the earliest days of this, it's going to be, as they gather materials, it's going to be more of a kind of a research center where people can find old scripts and rundowns and notes and questions and stunts and set designs and, essentially electronic donations of what was on paper and in art form. And then eventually they're going to amass a collection, much of which I'll give to them, of stuff, of props and podiums and set pieces and souvenirs and promotional materials, marketing materials, all kinds of stuff that covers the gamut of game shows, past and present. This is not just about ancient history. This is about today's game shows as well. And eventually they will open up an exhibit space and create a home. And it will likely travel around the country as well, so that it won't just be about people who go to Rochester. It'll be available. So it's a completely blank slate now. It's whatever we want this to be. And many people have come out of the woodwork to say, hey, I've got this and I've got that, and I've got my notes and I've got my scripts, and hey, there's some set pieces lying around, and do you want this and do you want that? And our answer to everybody right now is yes. We will take anything. They will hang on to it. They'll protect it. They'll preserve it. And one day they'll display it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be more than happy to actually donate this to the museum. I got this as a gift from the late Mark Corwin about 15 years ago. And
all right.
And it said inside, it's something we can't do now. But
yes,
this was a gift to me when I was 8 years old. I'll be more than happy to put this in a much more protective place.
That's sweet. Thank you. That everything like that is valuable, and so many people have different memories about game shows, whether it's game shows that they grew up with, or game shows that they tried out for, game shows that they appeared on. I would like to think that most people have had positive experiences with game shows, that whatever little fame or fortune they may have been able to achieve through being a contestant, up to life-changing experiences. I mean, many people have paid off their homes or their cars or their debts from money they won on game shows, and have enjoyed the cash and merchandise. So it's a great genre, and I can't believe nobody has ever done this up until now. It's so long overdue.
Yeah, I mean, I appeared on Wheel of Fortune about 5 years ago, and even though I didn't really win much, it was still a life-changing experience, because the people I got to meet afterwards, this is where I'm kind of getting this connection with people in the game show world. I've been able to meet so many amazing people, people that have been close to you, especially. And unfortunately, since I've known these people, I can't be on game shows, most game shows now. But you know what? The matter of the fact is, I got to be on one. I might be on another one, but we'll save that for later.
Okay.
But just the camaraderie with the people that share the same passion, that's what I think is the best part about this whole genre of television. It's when I talked about this with Mark Summers a couple of months ago, when I talked about this with Mark, we basically said this was like the only feel-good reality television. Nobody gets embarrassed, nobody gets voted off, and that's generally the premise of it all.
Yeah, I mean, some game shows are kinder than others, and there are instances where people get eliminated or lose. For every winner, you will have a loser or two, but for the most part, even the people who don't win have a great time. And when I brief contestants, which they'll do for our show, Funny You Should Ask, I say to them, whether you win or lose today, we want you to have one of the best days of your life being with us. And most of them, I would say darn near all of them, leave happy, even if they don't have anything to show for it.
Exactly. I think that's why mostly every American wants to be on a game show, so they can have that brief moment of happiness in their time of, who knows what they could be going through at home, but that little bit of euphoria and joy, I think what really stands game shows apart. And as you said, it needs to be shown more respect.
Indeed.
Now, I want to know about how you became interested in the game show world and what sparked everything for you. I mean, as my mom told me many, many moons ago, she said that I was watching Wheel of Fortune, according to her, as soon as I came out of the womb. But I want to know how that sparked interest with you.
Well, it's pretty much the same story for me, different shows. because I'm just a couple years older than you. But I loved game shows as far back as I can remember, and I knew that you had to be 6 years old to attend a taping of a game show. And I remember counting down the days till I was 6 when my mom could take me to see a taping of a show. And sure enough, I turned 6 and I asked her to take me to see Password. And Password was taping in what is now called the Ed Sullivan Theater on Broadway. And that day changed my life. I mean, I have vivid memories of sitting in the balcony. It's where Stephen Colbert does his show today.
I was just there not too long ago, actually.
And I was looking down. We only had a black and white TV set at home. Okay, this was 1965,
Right.
and so I had never seen any TV show in color. And here I am watching a show live that I had seen on TV, and it's in color and it's vibrant and it's exciting. And they had this, it was like a Jumbotron in the balcony for people who couldn't see the stage very well because the stage jutted out so far that you couldn't see everything on it from the balcony where we were seated. So they had this huge TV, the biggest TV I had ever seen in my life at that point. Of course, I was kind of little. And I remember that moment where I said, this is what I want to do when I grow up. And I remember saying that to my mom. I remember saying, when I grow up. And, you know, it's like, well, wouldn't you rather be a doctor or a lawyer? Because that was the kind of the standard. And I just knew this was going to be my life's passion. And I never looked back. I never, I followed up, and when I was 18, I got on a plane, came to LA to follow this dream. I didn't know a soul in California, but I had been to dozens and dozens and dozens of tapings of shows in New York, and there weren't that many. So I went to a lot of them. But 30 Rockefeller Plaza was a home for me in the summer. Everything they did at the Elysee Theater, which sadly is gone, 202 West 58th Street. I would go to see Pyramid frequently on days off from school and summers. And I couldn't get enough of it. But I knew if I wanted to work in this, I really had to come to LA. And so I got accepted to UCLA, fortunately, and just arrived here. And I started, has become my chasing of my dream.
And I'm trying to do the same thing here. I mean, it's a tough business. It's actually a very cutthroat business nowadays, but I'm sure somebody out there who really has the same passion as the both of us do. I'm sure one day that magic spark will arrive and somebody will get that opportunity. Now, looking at today's era of game shows, you see this a lot with ABC, especially now that the bigger classics have come back on the air. Why do you believe, in your opinion, why do you believe game shows have become so popular in today's world, especially with the classic titles?
Well, this started a few years ago, but it's really taken off in the last 2 to 3 years. And I think there's a few reasons for it. I think we've been living in a very turbulent society, politically turbulent, health challenges with the pandemic, financial challenges that are largely related to the pandemic. And, there's just so much negativity out there about life. And game shows are an escape. They're comfort food. They're something that you can participate in. There's something that will make you feel smart. They'll entertain you. You laugh at them. You'll yell at your television set with answers. And I think that is a huge part of the renaissance of game shows. and in terms of the classic shows, I think that the chief architect of this is a gentleman named Rob Mills at ABC, who is a game show fan, an enthusiast, a supporter, and he really had the vision to start off with Family Feud because it was wildly popular since Steve Harvey took over, and he believed that there was a primetime play for it. He put that on in primetime in the summer, and from that he has built and built and built, and he realized that the classic formats not only are just as good or better than of the newer shows that have come and gone since, but they establish a bond between the generations. So families can watch these shows together, and I will remember the old Press Your Luck because I worked on it, and you'll remember the old Press Your Luck because you grew up on the reruns of it.
Correct.
And now my daughter, who just turned 18, she knows the new Press Your Luck, and we can compare stories, and we watch it together every week. And we she'll say to me, "Dad, is that an original whammy or is that a new whammy?" And I'll know. I remember what the original whammies were and the ones that they have, remade, and the ones that are new. And so there's a bond between us over this game show format that is, something that you can't achieve that from any other form of television. The combination of the current value of them and the nostalgic value. So, all of us in the game show industry are grateful to Rob Mills for putting himself on the line and saying, I believe in the revivals, in the old formats, because I know that they're great shows. And he's also not just redone them, but for the most part, he stayed true to them. And it's the same music or a version of the same music. It's the same set design or a version of the same set design. There's an authenticity that he has stood for and created that is just it's so heartwarming to all of us fans.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And I've been watching really more than anything. I've been watching the new Press Your Luck with Elizabeth Banks. And initially, I'm sure a lot of game show fans were a bit hesitant at first, but she has really grown into the role, and she has done an amazing job of keeping the show fresh and exciting, and all these funny prizes that keep coming up. Like I see the pool table for Dan is back, the Flicati rug, and then I'm seeing the new things. I'm seeing like bagels and cream cheese for 10 years and pizza for life. I mean, some of these quirky prizes, obviously it definitely can appeal to the younger generation, but I love seeing the original contestants coming back for a second shot as well.
Yeah. They really have done everything right on that show. They've honored the legacy of the original, but they've contemporized it, modernized it. I think the personalized prize aspect is genius, because even though they mean a lot to the people who are on the show, they also mean a lot to us because they're quirky and they're fun. And, we have many of the same dreams that they do. They might like a particular musical artist to go to their concerts instead of the ones we like, but who doesn't want, 2 cars
right?
and trips to Paris? And I mean, so they've found a wonderful comfort zone where the prizes are special to the people on the show, but also relatable to us as the audience.
Absolutely. And now if I were to choose my own personalized prize, it would probably be, oh my God, I can't remember. I think my personal prize I would pick, it would probably be, oh wow, I cannot remember. Oh yeah, no. I remember what it was. It's a lifetime supply of pizza.
There you go.
A lifetime supply of pizza.
I can't fault you on the pizza choice. Mine would be an open ticket to see a taping of every game show in the world.
That's beautiful.
Send me to Europe. Let me go to every version of every game show that's in production at that time, and every game show that's in the US, and know that I've got the equivalent of the golden ticket to just be welcomed at every game show anywhere in the world. That would be my personalized price.
Absolutely. You can't put a price on that because it's essentially priceless in a way. It's one of the coolest things in the world. Now, I want to continue on Press Your Luck. You mentioned that you did work on the original show.
Yes.
Now, what was your position with the show?
Well, I was actually what has become known as the suit. I was the network executive assigned to the show. I was a baby executive at CBS in daytime, and my boss was grooming me to be able to take over responsibility for all the creative aspects of one of our shows. And the one that he chose first for me was Press Your Luck. So they had already been on the air for a couple of years. So I didn't enter that role until pretty much the last year, late 1985. So they had about a year left on the air. And it was assigned to me, and I am just thrown into the fire with, the people who have been making these kind of shows for a long time, and that particular show already for 2 years. And I was, essentially their reporting structure to the network, because I didn't have, final authority in an iron-fisted way, the way the networks do now. But I certainly had influence, and I could suggest and at times, if necessary, coerce certain things to happen on the show. And I learned a lot. And then the second show I was given was the $25,000 Pyramid with Dick Clark, which is where I started a tremendous, wonderful association with Dick Clark that turned into a mentorship and almost a familial connection. We became so close. I working for him. I helped create a show that his company did called Greed.
Yep.
That was on in 1999 and 2000. And he just treated me like a trusted friend and almost paternally. I mean, he was just so kind to me. And I learned so much about producing and about how to treat people. And he was just a wonderful influence in my life. And it all started when, here I am, the network exec on Pyramid. And it was a wonderful ride.
Yeah. And, I was a huge fan of Dick Clark. And of course, I wasn't, old enough to really grasp the sense of the impact that he had, not only in radio, but television, especially with Bandstand and the New Year's Rockin' Eve. That's basically where I've seen him a lot. And then, of course, the reruns of Pyramid that would come on television. And I was truly devastated when I found out he passed. But, he had such an amazing legacy that nobody, and I think nobody will be able to ever replicate.
Well, as I said, I became very close with him and his family. And I attended his memorial service, which was out at one of the properties that he owned out in Malibu. And at the end of that event, one of his children, his daughter Cindy, came up to me and she said, "Dad put aside some things for you, and let's get together sometime and I'll give them to you." And the most precious of those things was the satin jacket from the $25,000 pyramid that has his name embroidered on it. It says Dick, and he told his kids, save that for Bob, because I know he would appreciate it. So that's how special a man he was to me.
Wow, I'm gonna get choked up over that. Damn. But yeah, he was he just seemed like he really cared for the people that he worked with and the people that he was associated with. And I don't think there'll be anybody else like Dick Clark.
I agree. I agree.
And you mentioned that you and Dick had the opportunity to create Greed, a competitive show against the surge of the primetime game show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, obviously. Now, this was obviously a direct competitor to Millionaire. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll tell you the story. Millionaire came on in August of '99, and the ratings just grew exponentially over the first few days. And on Wednesday of that week, it premiered on Monday as a strip, as a Monday through Friday, and there was a weekend version as well. And on the third day, Dick's son Rack called me and said, Dad thinks that this is going to be a monster hit, and he would like you to come up with a new format that we could sell to compete with it. And I'm like, really? Pinch me. For real? Dick Clark wants me to create a show for him that he can sell? And he said, yeah, are you up for that? I'm like, up for that? Are you kidding? So 2 days later, on Friday, I came in with a concept that I'd come up with called All for One, which was 5 contestants who were connected in some way. They were coworkers, they were neighbors. I didn't want it to be family members because that was too much like Family Feud, but people who knew each other. And it was a game that involved a series of Q&A, because we wanted to be a question and answer show in the guise of Millionaire.
Right.
And the team would have to agree on answers in order for that answer to be registered. It was a little like what later was a device used in a show called Divided that Talpa did with GSN. It's been on in England for quite a while, and other countries. But that was sort of my basic concept. And I brought it in on Friday, and he and his team, Rack and Ari Edelman, they liked the idea, but they thought it needed to have a little more of a competitive edge to it, that it was just kind of too soft of a concept. So we decided together that the people should not be a team, but be strangers who were forced to be assembled as a team. And that way, although they all were pushing the rock up the hill, if you will, they also were competitive, and they wanted some element where they pick each other off. So I'm working with you, I'm your partner, I'm your teammate, but there may come a moment in time where I'm going to try to eliminate you from the team and carry on myself. And so I took all that in my head, worked it up again over the weekend, came back in, and it was closer to what Greed became. And Dick and his team liked it, but he said, All for One is too soft a title. We've got to come up with something that's more confrontational, more edgy. And so we just started brainstorming, and I remember saying, what about the Greedy team, the Greedy group, the Greedy bunch? And he said, hold it, just call it Greed, because that's what the show is about. It's about greed. It's I want for myself, and I don't want you to share in any of it. And so Greed became the title. The next day, Tuesday, we took it over to the late Rick Ludwin at NBC, who was he was in charge of late night, but he also was involved in Seinfeld and in what was then sort of specials, and because there was no department for reality TV at the point.
Right.
At that, and we pitched it to him, and he said, "We like this, but we own the show 21.
Yep.
And if we're going to do a game show, it's going to be something we own." So he passed. And then on Wednesday, the next day, we went to Fox and we pitched it to a wonderful man named Mike Darnell, who was in charge of what was reality television, because Fox was further ahead in that genre than any other network. So they actually had a department that dealt with reality, and he was doing, When Animals Attack and shows like that.
Right.
But he is a super competitive type, and he wanted his game show to go up against Millionaire and maybe even take down Millionaire. So he was hungry for a format, and we walked in at the right time with the right idea. He loved it, and he said, we're going to develop this. We're going to get this on the air. So that was the last week in August, and we went into aggressive development, run-throughs. Eventually, the show was greenlit, and our first air date was November 4th. So we turned it around in 10 weeks, the initial pitch to the first air date. And it lasted 44 episodes. It did quite well at the time, but it didn't get anywhere near the ratings of Millionaire. So ultimately, it was canceled the next year in the summer. So it was a wonderful fairy tale story for me. I actually had to resign from Family Feud to go do this, and that was a risky move because Family Feud, it was the first season of what is now the current version with Steve Harvey. It was hosted by Louis Anderson.
Right, Louis Anderson.
That year. And, I had a producing role on it, and I was very happy there. But, Dick Clark is calling, and Primetime is calling, and Fox is calling, and I couldn't give up that opportunity. So I did that, and then the show got canceled, but Dick was so happy with my work and liked me so much that he actually hired me as his head of development while the show was still going on, and I stayed doing that for a year after the show went off.
I think that's cool. And I personally believe that Greed is such an underappreciated show. And I think in today's world of, since game shows have become very popular today, I wouldn't be surprised if Greed decided to make some sort of a comeback.
Well, that's up to Dick Clark Productions, which has nothing to do with Dick Clark or his family anymore, but
right.
But it's owned by new people, and they're aware of it. They know they have it.
So, and to think this was the first show that could potentially give away not $1, but $2 million.
And for 1 month, as a promo, towards the end of the run in May of 2000, we did Super Greed.
Yep, doubled it up to $4 million.
$4 million, and that was a staggering prize for the time. Nobody won the $4 million, but we had teams that won $1 and $2 million. We gave away a lot of money. We had the $1 million moment during that month, and we allowed 4 players to play one question for $1 million, and one of them won.
Yep, I forget his last name, but it was Curtis.
Curtis Warren.
Curtis Warren.
Air traffic controller with spiky hair.
Yep.
Super nice guy, very smart, and he became one of the symbols of the show because he was so different. And what Greed did were 2 things that I believe have become standard procedure for game shows that followed, and for many reality shows that followed, because this was just prior to the modern age of reality competition shows with Survivor, Amazing Race, Big Brother, The Bachelor. All of those shows came on within the next couple of years. American Idol, after Greed, and we, I believe, were the first show to cast archetypes. So on a team of 5, we wanted somebody who was kind of super smart, nerdy. We wanted somebody who was vulnerable, perhaps an older person. We wanted somebody who was, super, super attractive and sweet and nice. And we wanted a villain. And, Curtis was the villain. He was that kind of, you weren't quite sure about him. He seemed like a nice guy, but underneath, he was out to get your money. So we did that. And then the other thing we did that I believe was the first time it was done on a game show, and now it's a standard procedure for all reality shows, most of them at least, was we did what are now known as the OTF, the on-the-fly interviews. And the way we did it, we didn't do this until the last maybe 6 or 7 episodes, but after somebody had their money stolen from them on the Terminator round, which was a head-to-head question where if you rang in and gave the correct answer, you stole your opponent's money and that person was eliminated from the game.
Right.
Well, we discovered that when the people were eliminated that abruptly, they would be pretty angry. And so they would storm off the stage and vent to whoever was standing there. And at one point, I said, follow them with a camera, put a handheld camera on them, and let's show their deep reactions in the moment. I didn't know to call it an on the fly, but I said, let's get their true, honest reaction to what just happened. And we did that. And somebody watched it and said, that should be a focal point of reality shows. Weakest Link followed up with that immediately after us. And that became one of their signature elements. And then all the Survivors and Amazing Races and The Bachelor, they all use that liberally. Big Brother has the diary room, which is dedicated to these on the fly interviews.
Yeah, and I remember there was this one episode, The Weakest Link. I believe it was like the final head-to-head match, and this one lady got eliminated. And I remember I was just thinking, oh my God, is she really overreacting about this? Like, she was like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. And it was truly one of the most, that was the gotcha moment to me of The Weakest Link. The show was obviously, with Ann Robinson, this wasn't a, mom and pop, family show. This was a cutthroat show to begin with. And the fact of the matter is, nobody, in my opinion, can replace the mannerisms or anything about Ann Robinson. And I think she's going to do an amazing job for Countdown that she's now going to host.
Yeah. There's something to be said for the OGs, for the hosts that start up a show, but also in many instances, they can't do it forever, and at some point, somebody was going to replace Bob Barker and many of the other classic hosts, and many of them have done quite well in their own right.
Yeah. As you mentioned, Price is Right's probably the best example, with Drew Carey making the show his own. And now the Price is Right has become such a generational thing. Now the more younger people are coming into the audiences, or whenever an audience will come back to the show, I don't know. But now that, there is more prizes dedicated to the young people. I really love when they bring the kids on, because nowadays, or back then, you really wouldn't expect something like this, but now it's become more of a norm for younger people to do stuff like this, and I think it's a lot of fun.
Well, the dirty secret, that's not a secret, is that game shows traditionally have skewed older.
Yes.
It has always been a challenge to get a younger audience for game shows, for whatever reason. That's why I think this co-viewing phenomenon is so important with the revivals, particularly on ABC, is that it's introducing a whole new generation that probably would not discover these shows on their own because it's just not their wheelhouse. They wouldn't watch ABC primetime. They're caught up with YouTube or Instagram or whatever distracts them.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, mom or dad or older brothers or sisters or whatever are watching, or grandmas or grandpas, I suppose, are watching these shows and say, "Hey, come on!" And then they're very addictive once you're introduced to them. So it's just about finding ways to appeal to that younger demo that otherwise would not find these shows.
And I personally, I think the best example for shows finding this sort of a young audience is Jeopardy. They have an amazing social media team. Their marketing team is like on point. They know how to get the young they know how to get the young person to watch the show. And essentially, in a way, before he passed away, Alex Trebek was essentially a meme because of his, the rapping categories and all the fun stuff they've done in between. And, when you have a perennial guy like Alex Trebek, rapping a Kanye West song, you can't help but smile. And the same way that they've marketed, and I've got a pretty cool memento here, when they marketed the Greatest of All Time tournament, I was very fortunate to get these promotional whiskey stones. And it came in this cool little bag that said, "Make it a true daily double."
Aww.
What was really cool about, the Greatest of All Time tournament is that there were people from different generations watching, as from people going to the Brad Rutter era, from the Sushi Bar era. Then you got Ken Jennings, who had that incredible run. And then most recently with Jeopardy James, the three different generations that have watched these people play and then competing, for what's probably the coveted Greatest of All Time title. I thought that they did an amazing job with it, and I'm glad they did it when Alex was still around.
Yes. I was fortunate enough to be invited to the tapings, and I cleared my calendar for up to 3 days because they were going to tape up to 7 shows in a tournament style, sort of World Series philosophy. Mm-hmm. And you couldn't drag me away from it. It was just captivating television, and to be in that room was so exciting for me. And keeping the secret of who won was also very difficult for me because I so want to share great stories about game shows, but I kept it under wraps. Mm-hmm. It was quite amazing, and I got to take my older key with me, and yes, she grew up with all this and has formed a passion for it, but she's also a working professional now in the game show space. So it was a great moment for us together as a family to watch this tournament. And I became, over the years, friends with all 3 of the GOATs. I've had them over to my house, and I've been lucky enough to interact with them. I met James first when he was a contestant on The Chase, which was the original U.S. version of The Chase, which I did for Game Show Network. And I've known Brad for quite a while, and I recruited him actually to do the pilot of The Chase, which was at the time for Fox, which we shot in London. And I've known Ken for quite a while, and him on many different levels over the years. So when this was all put together, I was just so thrilled for all of them, and I'm just so fortunate to have them as my friends.
Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to meet Brad a couple of years ago in Las Vegas. One of the nicest dudes you could ever meet.
Yes.
And I was very fortunate enough. Now I'm pointing to a picture on my wall that I keep looking at every day. About a year before his passing, I sent a letter over to Alex, just telling him, how much I appreciated his work, and how much he and Johnny inspired me to join the broadcasting field, and they really did. I have a bachelor's in broadcasting, and have been wanting to do trivia style shows for many years, and I even host a Jeopardy live stream whenever I'm not doing this, and I sent him a letter, and not thinking I was going to get anything back, he took the time to read it. He sent me an autographed picture. Now I'm going to shift my camera over there. I don't know if you can see it over there, but it says, "To Kyle, a loyal Jeopardy fan, with my best wishes."
That's so great.
Yeah, and even now I knew he read it because I put in my signature, "From a loyal Jeopardy fan." So that's when I knew. Yeah, he read the letter.
Here's my autograph. It's over here. Here's my autograph picture of Alex.
Oh, wow.
That he sent me when I was in college, and he signed it Alex Trebek High Rollers. So
wow.
That was a different era of Alex Trebek.
Yes.
But nonetheless memorable for my generation, at least.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got autographs from Pat and Vanna, Regis, Johnny Gilbert. I was very fortunate to get one from him.
Love that,
man, no, Johnny Gilbert is one guy, and I hope to talk to him one day on this podcast. So, Johnny, if you're watching or listening, but Bob, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk game shows with you. I hope to meet up with you one day and talk even more game shows.
Well, I'm happy to do it anytime you want, and I'm going to end with a plug for the show that I do called Funny You Should Ask. Check your local listings for time and channel in your area. It's syndicated. It's on all over the country, and make sure you watch it and enjoy it.
It's a very funny show, guys. You should totally watch it. For Bob Boden, for all of us here at the Hirsh Show, I'm seeing you next time. And as the great Alex Trebek, well, not Alex Trebek, but as I always say, make life a true daily double. See you then.
Thanks for playing.